everybody, and today we are going to be reviewing the Forever Purge. I am joined today by Serafina.
Hello!
So, Serafina, what did you think about this movie?
Words cannot describe what I thought of this movie. I'm still kind of processing it. As soon as it opens, you understand where they're going with it, the racist type undertones to it.
It's a hard movie to rank, in a sense, when you think about the whole series. And when you're watching, you might enjoy it, but then when you start to think about it, it's very baffling.
The NFFA, the New Founding Fathers of America, are back in power because, like I said at the end of election year, that this country was stupid enough to get them back into power to re-elect them. And sure enough, they did.
Yeah, because, you watch a bunch of people immigrating from Mexico through these tunnels to get across the border. And the border wall exists. I guess, in this universe, the NFFA can complete the wall, unlike another person couldn't.
The purge is reinstated, and it commences, and goes off kind of without a hitch. I was watching it, and I thought, wow, the purge is over. The 12-hour purge is over, so the movie must be wrapping up. This is the shortest purge movie ever.
It goes off without a hitch. You had the weird people, like the purge purification people driving around trucks, but you really don't quite notice anything.
Oh, and the rules are reinstated. The government officials cannot be killed, and the weapons class 4 and above are restricted, so they're reinstated. That's something.
But all the unwritten rules came back into effect. You can't save people. You can drive like a emergency vehicle and you're still okay. This is the first movie where you hear that siren at the end of the purge, to end the commencement of that we're still, who knows, possibly halfway through this. I would say this is one of the only good things I can say about this movie, is that as they're showing like the news people, they're talking about the aftermath. And on TV, unbeknownst to our main character, she is walking away, but we see on the TV, the news reporter just gets shot. And it's a very shocking thing a little bit, because it's out of the blue. But it's a little bit intriguing. Then the film falls down further and further as you continue.
Yes, because the Forever Purge breaks out.
The Forever Purge is led by the Forever Purgers, who have a flag saying Forever Purge, Ever After. And you want to know what the reasoning behind it is? Well, they're racist, and they want to get rid of all the other races who are not white. Now, if you ever thought of the most bland and stupid premise, that's what you got with the Forever Purge. Not to mention the fact of the cop-outs. Like, oh, let's have the NFFA get reinstated. Let's undo everything election year set up. The future could have been promising for this series. But James DeMonaco, I think, couldn't trust a possible film without the NFFA somehow being involved, so he reduced himself back to the NFFA days.
Well, when things go to hell, you can be thankful that Canada and Mexico opened up their borders to us.
Which is a kind of unrealistic thing when you think about it, because you know that Mexico and Canada wouldn't do that for us at all. Following these characters, which most of them I can't remember their name, I only remember like 2 characters' names, and that is Juan and Adela.
There was Josh Lucas's character, what was it? Dylan was his name.
Oh yeah, Dylan Tucker, I think his name was. And I can't remember his wife's name, or his sister's name, or their father's name. You can't remember a lot of characters' names in this movie.
That's how most purges after Anarchy were. You couldn't remember their names. They were not memorable.
Yeah. With this, the whole thing is we follow these characters as they escape from Mexico, and then they jump for 10 months. They never explicitly say when they had immigrated to America. They don't say, like, if it's 2040, or if it's some, like, distant future. They never exactly say that. So you're kind of left wondering, when does this happen in the timeline? Because they'll never explain that to you this entire film.
That's just James DeMonaco. He likes to leave a lot of things out of these movies. I don't know if it's just a choice or shoddy writing. My bet is shoddy writing, because it's ridiculous.
He leaves out a lot. Yeah, because I think that this is not something like, intriguing to set up for the next film, because this is supposed to be the final film. Why would you keep so much information still in the dark for us?
They should have left it on the first Purge, because that was a decent movie. I wasn't pissed off.
Yeah, I think that the first Purge it realistically depicts the Purge. It's like people are not always going to be murdering, and that's what that film does. There are some characters you don't really like, but in the end, it's still passable to a point where it's like, you're not really hating it. You're not like dreading going through it. The build up in the first purge to the actual commencement of that very first purge isn't boring. And when the purge actually commences, it's actually interesting the entire time. This movie though, the build up to the purge itself is boring. The purge itself is boring. And then the Forever Purge at first seems interesting until they show it off more. Then it's boring. You had that build up. They kind of just like show off a little bit of the mundane life of these, and they try and give some like character, because Juan is somehow able to like calm down horses. First of all, that's never brought up again. So I don't know, you get introduced to him in America that way.
He's a calm guy. He can calm down anything.
And he refuses to speak English. He won't learn it for some reason. He can speak it from time to time, but not all the time.
Whenever the plot calls for it, he can speak English.
You have the Dylan is like, I think he has too much pride and he doesn't want to see his pride get hurt. But Juan thinks he just doesn't like him because of his skin color.
I think they wrote the character of Dylan to start out as racist, and then through this whole journey he realizes the error of his ways and he becomes more tolerant. But really he stays racist because he gives that speech to Juan, I have no problem with people of other colors just as long as they stick with their own. That's racist.
During this road trip down to El Paso to get across the border and stuff, he simply just tells Juan, I'm okay with like people of different skin color. All I believe in is that people who are Mexican should be with Mexicans, white people should be with white people. And that's like Cartman in South Park forcing the two black kids of like their elementary school to get together. That's like what that is. And I don't see what character development came from this.
He's still racist. Perhaps a little less, but still racist.
Not to mention as well at the end, he's like, oh, you're supposed to have a happy ending. He's like, but you gotta think about this guy is now in Mexico, a foreign country that apparently he's most likely never gonna get acclimated to.
It was like they didn't know what to do with this character. It was like, well, he's racist, so we'll make him not be racist by having him say this, but that's racist. That's another thing. Josh Lucas is pushing like 60, and they have him have a baby? That's ridiculous.
And especially last time I could remember seeing that guy, it was in Eric Bana's Hulk. That was all the way back in 2003, and
he was like in Jake and the Fat Man in the 80s.
During that time frame, the build up to the purge, you have this one guy who acts like really weird, and they call him Crazy Man. He's like, he's a very generic guy. He's kind of like the red herring of like, oh, I'm gonna purge people, but he doesn't lay out his entire plan. Everyone gets home, and Juan and Adela, they go to this like facility where pretty much any like I guess immigrant goes to hide out during the purge. It's a heavily fortified place and all that. And then Dylan and his family, they all just have their like security system come down.
That's another thing. After the purge, everyone just gets up and goes back to work. There's no day off. These people are probably tired from being hunted or hurt or whatever, and no day off, just right back to work. Purge be damned.
Well, the friend of Juan in this movie, he says, like, they should make the day after the purge a holiday. And Juan doesn't know what a holiday is, surprisingly. Yet, he has to ask the question about what a holiday is, and it's like celebrating in a festive way. Yeah, that is a shocker to think. Like, why would you have people go who are mostly exhausted or possibly injured to have to go to work right after?
But you do get to see all the dead bodies lying around and the blood, and the cleanup is commencing. And I always say that after these things, the cleanup must be astronomical. And the property damage alone is not worth it, but who am I to tell people not to purge?
During the night, Adela saw this like purge purification truck, and in there I think she noticed her friend Darius, who's like co-running the like meat plant that she works at, and yet she gets there and she's like, wonder where everyone is. I don't know, possibly dead.
It was purge night and they were immigrants. What do you think happened to them? They were hunted and most likely killed. That's what this new purge is all about.
Blood on the shutter doors he's been walking past. Maybe that's all her co-workers' blood right now. Yeah, she asked a question of that. It's like, how dumb can you be? You saw a huge van, like, preaching some gospel about getting rid of immigrants, pretty much.
Well, this did not get past James DeMonico because he did write the line, this is my first purge. So he covered himself there, I guess.
But still... You think everyone, even in foreign countries, would know what the purge is?
We had foreigners coming to the United States to purge in election year. So I'm pretty sure that the world knows that the America purges.
Not to mention, in the history of the Purge up to like this point, at one point, the Purge went on for 22 years.
The one question I have to ask is, how little does James DeMonaco think of our country, that he created this, that he did this?
I feel like he's pushing a weird, preachy message with this film. I understand, yeah, we have these problems, especially this year we had the whole insurrection thing on January 6th, but
I think he's attempting to send a message of, this is how bad it could get. So I don't know if he's anti-gun, but that seems to be the message that he's pushing. And what I can say is it's falling on deaf ears. If killing a bunch of children at Sandy Hook is not going to move this country for stricter regulations on guns, then James DeMonaco's sucky film about, well, we're heading to purge, people will be killing each other in the streets and it'll all be legal, I don't think that's going to move anyone to change their stance on the Second Amendment.
There's also, another Nazi with his philosophy on his face.
There is a guy in this movie who can identify the gun based off the shot. I mean, we're obviously a country that loves guns, and no bogus movie about a fictional event is going to change people's minds. You can hold up the mirror to them all you want. They're going to see what they want to see.
Yeah, because especially since a lot of people make money off of guns, and a lot of people will never give up their guns. You'll never be able to strip our country of our guns.
There are people who don't own guns, but they have the stance that, well, it's not my place to step up and, regulate other people. I don't want to take their rights away or, their access to guns away. Where are these people when women's rights are being challenged? What music that people listen to, what movies people watch. Where are they then? They're all, policing entertainment. This cannot be watched because I wouldn't watch it, so you can't watch it. Religion. You can't infringe upon my religion, and then they try to shove it down your throat. Where are they then?
It's too preachy, and it's trying to get a message across that no one's going to give two fucks about by the end of it.
I wonder if any of these movies have ever inspired anyone to go out and actually purge.
I feel like someone has I bet, used that as an excuse. If people have used video games as an excuse, and how those things have been written into horror films as well, with stuff like Scream 2. You had Timothy Olyphant's character in that movie say, oh, I just want to get caught, and then blame it all on horror films. You see, people will blame shit on anything, and people will believe it because no one actually wants to fact check anything. So I bet someone would go into the court and they'll say, why did you murder this person? I murdered them because of the purge.
It was purge night in my mind.
I saw all these people committing crimes in my mind, and so I did this.
Do these movies actually serve a purpose?
I think that they try and push for a message. If you went into this film without knowing about a message, you're going to obviously know it throughout the whole fucking movie, because they preach it to you. That's something, as I have said in past reviews of these films, that they have missed that subtlety and the ability to make a message underlying in the story. Instead, nowadays, they make them always the main story is about this message, about racism, about police brutality, and all these other things.
So instead of walking out of the theater and thinking, oh, that was the message, to actually having your face hurt because you're slapped across the face constantly throughout the whole movie with this message, I left the theater with a sore face. How did you leave?
I left with a sore face. I was at first hoping, and my hopes were dashed. This is another film in this year that has disappointed me also. So, the next day comes around, and people are just going back to normal. They all go back to work, go back to school. You catch up with our characters, and they're going, and then Adela has a bright idea. It's like she comes out and she sees this cage with a goat in it. Now, if any sane person sees that, it's a little odd. You'd possibly go and investigate a little bit. But then when you see, there's a handle, and you try and reach for it, and you're like, I can't get to it. Let me look around and actually get something I can hook onto it. No, she decides, I'm going to stick my head into this little contraption. It's big enough for my head. Grab it, pull it. My neck got crushed by this bar. Oh no, I'm getting flipped.
Once again, stupid characters. Why are you letting someone else's goat out anyway? You don't know. They could have worked like hell to get that goat in the cage in the first place. And you're just going to let it out?
You wouldn't go yourself. The police most likely will do this.
I'm not touching no goat.
But she goes, she gets trapped, and then you have these bunny men who come out of the trash can who I bet smell like garbage, man. And they're here, and they're like, no, the purge is not over. It's the Forever Purge.
Question, was this all orchestrated?
I think so, but the question is how long it took for them to do this is never answered. Again, another plot detail that's never revealed. The whole Forever Purge is like a mystery. It's like they have a possibility they can come back to this. Even though James DeMonaco said, like, I feel pretty good with how this ended. And you have Jason Blum saying he's going to try and talk James DeMonaco into doing more of these films. I bet James DeMonaco already had in the back of his mind, he's going to do more of these films.
James DeMonaco's mantra, we don't tell you anything. I think he was using this to gauge how well this franchise was doing, and if this particular movie did well, I think he was up for doing more.
Purge 6. And you watch that happen on the farm with Dylan and them. They're getting captured by the crazy man co-worker they had, who's face painted and I think covered in blood, and who knows what that could all be. It's like, this is the first time in the series, I think, that it's not some big anti-NFFA organization going after the rich this time. These are just actual people living in low-income lives finally going after the rich.
He wasn't going after immigrants, he was going after the rich. He wanted them to know how it felt to be him.
But it's kind of weird. You got these people all dressed up, and they're very weird looking and kind of funny looking, if anything. They're not intimidating or not creepy or scary. They're just these guys got face paint.
You're used to seeing all the masks on Purge Night, or now the Forever Purge, but there's more face paint. It seems like face paint was what they opted for this time around.
Yeah, I think face paint's their go-to. You'll see some masks, but most of the time it's just them brandishing their own faces. But as you're going through this, you know that Adele is going to survive, and her boss / whoever the fuck this guy is to her in the workplace, Darius comes in. He just starts going ham on these bunny men. He fucking knocks one of their meat cleavers right into their eye and kills them, and then they set up they hold another guy right above his hole puncher thing.
He gets killed by his own trap.
Yeah, he gets killed by his own trap. And then the police come. First of all, I'm shocked that these police are arresting people right now, because by this point, as soon as they get arrested, there's apparently a whole out of this fucking world attack on the nation because of the purgers. Yet somehow they have the time to arrest people.
I like the police. They're like, what are you doing? The purge is over.
Yeah, it's not man, you murder someone. No.
Are you trying to tell me that there are no murders throughout the entire year, only on Purge Night in the United States?
Not to mention, when you come upon these people who are dressed up, and they look very morbid, I think I know what happened here. There's people murdering people on this day.
What? There are people murdering people that outside the purge? Who would have thunk it?
Now, Juan and his friend get there. They save the rich people, but the father gets killed out of that family, who is the same guy who played the police officer from Halloween 2018. So this is another Blumhouse production he gets killed in. The rest of them, they take out the weird purgers, and they apparently have a whole armada, and they have their own flag. Which I bet when someone had to make those flags and send them out, and you wonder to yourself, man, why do so many people have these flags saying "Ever After the Purge"?
Was there a run on those flags? We have been printing up Ever After flags for a while now. We don't know what they're for, but we just send them out. They order them. We send them.
Yeah, but the film it starts off pretty interesting with the whole reporter being killed on camera, and that's pretty interesting, and then it just falls apart from there, because then you just have all this widespread attack, and especially because they had to up the fire, because they don't have fire in the Purge night. No, on the night there is the whole day, the Forever Purge, the whole town, whatever Texas town they're in, they're at some low race Texas or something. And that's all just burned to us, and also somehow a water tower leads to fire. I don't know how a water tower does.
The water tower falls over, starts a fire. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so a lot of questions there.
Then they take out an army installation, which causes the Mexican and Canadian border to rethink their opening. So they say, well, we're going to cut it, and we're going to shut the borders at this specific time. You're not going to have as long as we once said, because you guys are a little bit crazy.
Yeah, that's another thing. How enough do these, people who, I understand they're setting up for this, but how the do you get into a military base in real life and blow shit up? This isn't GTA. There's tanks on there, and I kind of forgot all about the army aspect until I was like, oh wait, no, the military, that possibly explains the tank. But at the time I saw, I was like, there was GTA Online, yeah. And so, you got our characters driving this, like, big semi. They're constantly being attacked. There's really nothing fun going on at this point. They got some moments, but really nothing more. Okay, they're just driving down El Paso so they can get to the border, because Mexico and Canada open their border now. First of all, anyone in, like, Colorado, Kansas, especially, imagine if you were like, you're never getting over into, like, Canada or Mexico. You got all these, like, it's mostly just anarchy with this. This movie could have been called Anarchy easily. Pretty much any Purge movie can be called Anarchy except the original one. They're driving down to El Paso. They get to El Paso, and first of all, they're getting blocked off, and Dylan, he decides, you blocked my way, honk, honk. Like, they're gonna move the heaping, burning...
You're just drawing more attention to yourself.
So. They're gonna move the ambulance that's on fire right now, and he tries to make another way. They're blocked both ways, and he decides not to honk this time. So they get out, and they pretty much just, like, they're very tactical with this. They're walking down alleyways, and there was another guy who in this series who understands best plan of action. When someone's coming at you with a gun, run at them from the alleyway, screaming your head off with a big blade, and they're gonna get you shot instantly. That's like the third time I've seen this in this series.
When in doubt, scream at the top of your lungs.
Blade out and get shot in the guts by a shotgun. It's always a shotgun as well. As they're going through this whole area, the military are killing people, the purgers are killing people. They get to the theater, where they're gonna try and get through that, and a tank shoots it. First of all, the cameraman acts this whole thing out, because he drops his camera in like a found footage film, picks it up, and like, gotta get back to it.
This movie, I noticed, relied so much on jump scares.
Yeah, I noticed that if you watch the trailer, you're going to see, I think, pretty much almost every jump scare in this film. But there's horses that jump scare you. There are people who jump scare you. There is a thing where Dylan, he opens his gun thing. He's the guy, and he, as soon as he looks, he's there. And, like, and his wife's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I said to myself, as like, trying not to have a heart attack. That's what.
Dylan's own wife jump scared him.
Your baby daddy dying on you because you killed him.
It's just jump scare after jump scare. You get exhausted by the number of jump scares in this movie.
Yeah, and especially because that trailer kind of gets you prepared for it, so it's not even really scary either. Because you're watching it and they happen, you may blink a little bit, like, happens. But it's like, it's nothing really out of this world.
Luckily, I am immune to jump scares.
It is just baffling how many jump scares they fucking decided to use in this film. The movie heavily relies on that stuff.
But the music got so loud during the jump scares. It was hard to handle.
I heard the person behind me jump. Like, I think when that purger came from the bar and his face pops up, like, I could hear the person right behind us just jump. I could hear that. And it's like, man, that was some powerful jump scare. It's shown in the trailer like 50 billion times, but yeah.
It was an older woman behind us.
And luckily she didn't croak back there during that. You have these just, as I'm saying, this movie has really nothing going for it. So they get there, the cameraman acts all found footagey and gets blown up by a tank. They get to the alleyway, and then you have these like racist people pop in, and they're like, hey, we're gonna kill the brownies. Oh no, he wants the white people to redeem themselves because they associate themselves with Mexicans. Yeah, so they expect them, and Dylan's like, fuck you, and then his sister's like, fuck you too. And they have the mama is just like annoying. Daddy character gets over there. That's the second character in the series named Daddy. He gets over there, her face is normal, so I don't know what happened there. And continuity was broken on that.
I dislike when a married couple calls each other mother and father. It's just off-putting. I just don't understand when people do horrendous things to other people and then they have horrendous things done onto them and they are shocked. Like, get some self-awareness, people.
They go on about their day, and they go and find the Indian character, Native American, whatever way you want to call him, who's been in this film earlier.
He kind of reminds me of the Carmelo Johns character in Purge Anarchy, because he was on the television as well, and he's like, the Purge is not helping, the Purge is only hurting, you're killing minorities, you're killing the poor, it's not worth it, let's move on.
So, goes on and takes them there. The racist people who got killed in the alleyway, pretty much. The head leader, who's Alpha Leader. Man, what a generic name he has, other than Daddy. He goes and he hunts them. And now, this is where they decide to have to, like, force some, like, big event.
One last showdown. I swear all these Purge movies has to have at least one big last showdown.
Really? Which is questionable is, like, they could have easily wrote, like, a bunch of people out in the desert at this point between Mexico and the U.S. Because you know that there's possibly people trying to round them up because they know people are going to try and escape to Mexico that way. I'm shocked that Mexico closes its borders once the American army base gets destroyed. Because you think that there's mostly people at the border killing people. So I don't know how I'm shocked that they kept their border open for as long as they did. Because you know there had to be purgers right at the border waiting for people. I am shocked though that the NFFA were against the Forever Purge.
Because they were losing control. Their main thing is they want control.
Man, I like how they don't even show a single member of who the new founding fathers of America in this movie.
It's already been built in or established that you are supposed to hate the NFFA, so they don't need to show anyone. You just know you hate the NFFA.
They're getting attacked. The alpha leader gets a rodeo rope around his neck, and then Juan has to stay equipped. Yet it doesn't come off cool as I think he thinks it does, because he says, "Does this translate?" And it's his accent is what really screwed him over in that, because why it doesn't make him sound so cool, and the fact that his voice isn't deep or anything, so it's not like a really cool thing.
So they reach Mexico, and Dylan gets to have his baby. Although it should be his grandbaby because he's old enough to be a grandfather at this point.
And so he runs over, has his kid, his daughter.
So then the news comes on and states that the regular people are rising up and fighting the Forever Purgers. And they're going to wonder what America looks like after everything is all settled. What have we learned from the Purge franchise?
We have learned that preachy messages are constant. There are stupid people within this universe, and the fact that there's a lot of characters who don't even show up in many of the films.
What I have learned is if a bill ever comes to the House of Representatives regarding the Purge, please write your representative and tell them to vote no on the Purge. We do not need it. We do not want it. Don't vote for it. It will not help in any way, shape, or form. I would say, James DeMonaco, stand by what you said and make this the final one. Don't come back. Don't make any more of these movies. They are horrible. Stay away from this franchise. I am forever scarred because I watched these movies. I wish I didn't, but I did, and now I must try to forget them. I am now done with The Purge. I would like to cover something classic.
So, what would that be then?
So, I believe that we should start the Psycho franchise.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to the good tried and true classic of horror.
So, that was our thoughts on the Forever Purge. We want our money back. Please join us next week for Psycho. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you then. Take care of yourselves. Bye.